All right, strap in, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a world where your gingerbread cookie might just bite back. We're talking about The Gingerdead Man.
Ah, yes. A film that truly embodies the phrase, so bad it's good.
That's one way to put it. This 2005 horror comedy flick is about, well, a killer gingerbread man.
Not your grandma's holiday baking, that's for sure.
Definitely not. But first, let's get into the meat of this gingerbread tale. It all starts with Millard Findlemeyer, a convicted killer.
Not exactly the kind of guy you want inspiring your holiday treats.
Nope. But that's exactly what happens. After his execution, his ashes get mixed into, get this, gingerbread spice mix.
Oh, his own mother, no less.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Talk about a family recipe you don't want to mess with.
That's one way to ensure your son's legacy lives on, I guess. A bit unorthodox, though.
You think? Anyway, this cursed spice mix finds its way to a bakery run by Sarah Lee and her mom. They whip up a giant gingerbread man using this special dough.
And then, boom, an electrical surge brings the Gingerdead Man to life. It's like Frankenstein's monster, but with a holiday twist.
Exactly. And this Gingerdead Man isn't content with just chilling in the bakery.
Oh, no. This cookie packs heat, literally. Armed with a pistol and a serious grudge, he sets off on a rampage of revenge.
Yeah, some of the death scenes are more funny than scary, though. It's that classic B-movie blend of horror and comedy.
Right. The over-the-top violence actually works in the film's favor. It's so exaggerated that it becomes more cartoonish than disturbing.
Okay, so we've got this killer cookie with a penchant for puns and a pretty gruesome sense of humor. But what's interesting is the movie gained a cult following despite some pretty mixed reviews.
Yeah, critics were divided on this one. Some hated the humor in the writing, found it juvenile. Others, though, loved the sheer ridiculousness of it all, embraced the B-movie vibe.
What do you think it is about these cult classic films that draws people in, even if critics aren't impressed?
That's a good question. Maybe it's that they offer something different from the usual Hollywood fare. They're not afraid to be weird, to push boundaries.
And The Gingerdead Man definitely pushes some boundaries. Speaking of pushing boundaries, did you know Gary Busey, as in the Gary Busey, plays Millard Findlemeyer?
Wait, really? Oh, that's a casting choice I wouldn't have predicted.
And the story behind it is even better. Apparently, Busey accepted the role for a super low fee.
I guess sometimes actors are drawn to these offbeat projects, even if it means taking a pay cut. It can be creatively freeing to play in that world of absurdity.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't want to play a killer gingerbread man brought to life by a freak electrical surge?
Only Gary Busey, I suppose. And it actually makes sense. His unpredictable energy adds a layer of, well, chaos. That fits perfectly with the movie's tone.
So, despite the mixed reviews, The Gingerdead Man managed to build a dedicated fan base, which probably explains why it spawned, well, a whole franchise.
A franchise, you say? For a killer cookie, that's impressive. What does this franchise entail?
We're talking 4 sequels, a crossover with the Evil Bong series, comic books, even merchandise.
Evil Bong. Okay, you're definitely going to have to elaborate on that.
Oh, we will. We've even got cereal tie-ins for the Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong, crossover Nookie Crisp and Wheaties.
Wow, they really went all in on that one. That's some dedicated marketing right there.
They knew their audience. Speaking of audiences, the Gingerdead Man even made an appearance on Elvira's 13 Nights of Elvira, quite the achievement for a killer cookie.
Getting featured on 13 Nights of Elvira is like a badge of honor in the world of cult films. It exposes the movie to a wider audience, gives it that seal of approval.
Right. It's like Elvira approves, so it must be good, or at least good in a delightfully bad kind of way.
Exactly. But I'm curious about those sequels. What kind of adventures does the Gingerdead Man get up to in those?
Well, in the first sequel, Passion of the Crust, he's trying to make it in Hollywood. It's almost like a meta-commentary on sequels themselves.
Oh, that's clever. Trying to recapture that original magic.
Then, in Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, he travels back in time to a 1976 roller disco competition.
Okay, a time-traveling killer gingerbread man at a roller disco. They're really not holding back.
It's pure camp. And, you know, it's that kind of fearlessness, that willingness to embrace the ridiculous that often leads to the most memorable experiences for the audience.
Agreed. It's like they're saying, we're going to make the movie we want to make, and if people don't like it, that's on them, which honestly can be pretty refreshing.
Especially in a world where everything feels so polished and predictable. But we can't forget about that Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong crossover.
Right, the ultimate showdown. So what happens when a killer cookie meets, well, an evil bong? Do they, like, team up, fight for world domination?
It's basically a battle for supremacy. The plot's a little loose, but the real draw is seeing those two iconic characters interact. Pure chaos, lots of puns.
I can already imagine the one-liners. It's like a wild ride. But it's interesting how they've woven this one character, this killer cookie, into this whole expanded universe.
Yeah, Full Moon Features really knows how to build a world, a shared playground for all their, shall we say, unique creations. And the Wikipedia article even delves into the production process a bit. Did you know the Gingerdead Man was almost entirely CGI?
Wait, seriously? Like a Pixar-style gingerbread man, that would have been a completely different vibe.
Right. Imagine a super smooth, digitally rendered cookie chasing people with a gun.
I'm kind of glad they went with practical effects instead. The puppets and full-body suit give it that B-movie charm.
Definitely. That slightly janky DIY feel is part of what makes these movies so much fun. It's like they're saying, yeah, we know this is ridiculous, but we're going to do it anyway.
And own it, too.
Right.
It's that confidence that makes it work. But what about the critics? How do they react to this masterpiece of killer cookie cinema?
Let's just say opinions varied. Some reviews were brutal. Bloody Good Horror called it one of the shortest yet hardest to watch films I've ever seen.
Ouch. That's gotta sting.
But then you have Horror Society praising the lack of a traditional plot and the excessive gore,
It's almost like it was designed to be polarizing, to provoke strong reactions.
which is often a hallmark of cult films, right? They're not meant to appeal to everyone.
Exactly. They connect with a specific audience, a group of people who appreciate the bizarre, the unconventional.
And maybe there's even a deeper meaning hidden in there. Could the Gingerdead Man be a commentary on consumerism?
I mean, you've got this gingerbread man, a symbol of holiday cheer, turned into a homicidal maniac. There's definitely room for interpretation.
Maybe it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of mass-produced treats, or maybe it's just a fun, gory romp with a killer cookie.
The beauty is, it can be both. It's up to the viewer to decide what they take away from it.
So before we move on to those sequels, the comic books, the serial, let's take a quick look at the Wikipedia article's discussion of the film's production. It mentions that The Gingerdead Man was originally supposed to come out in 2001, but got delayed.
Oh, that's interesting. Any reason given for the delay?
Not really, but what's even more intriguing is that the original trailer from 2001 shows a completely different Gingerdead Man.
What do you mean? Like a different design?
Yeah, instead of practical effects, the trailer shows a CGI Gingerdead Man. He almost looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Whoa, now that would have been a sight. I can only imagine the direction they were going for with that. Maybe more of a satire on those wholesome commercials.
Right, but I think the delay and the switch to practical effects actually worked out for the best.
Agreed. The practical effects give him a more tangible quality, a sense of weight and presence that CGI often lacks. Plus, it fits perfectly with that full moon B-movie aesthetic.
It's that handmade, almost DIY approach that makes their films so unique. But speaking of unique, have you seen the Gingerdead Man mask they sell?
Oh, yeah, perfect for scaring the neighborhood kids.
Or adults. And there's a resin statue, too.
A Gingerdead Man collectible. Who would have thought?
But the most outrageous piece of merchandise has to be the cereal box for Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong. Nookie Crisp and Wheaties.
They really commit to the bit, don't they?
They know their audience. And it's that self-awareness, that willingness to embrace the ridiculous that makes it all work.
It's like they're saying, we know this is silly, but we're going to have fun with it, and you should too.
Exactly. And I think that's the key to enjoying a film like The Gingerdead Man, letting go of your expectations and just embracing the absurdity.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most enjoyable experiences come from the most unexpected places. Even a killer gingerbread man can deliver a good time.
And speaking of unexpected places, the Gingerdead Man is actually part of a larger, shared universe within Full Moon Features. He pops up in the Evil Bong series, even becomes the main antagonist in one of the installments.
Wow, they really built a whole world around this killer cookie.
And Sarah Leigh, the protagonist from the original film, even makes appearances in the Evil Bong series.
It's like a crossover episode of the most bizarre TV shows you could imagine.
Exactly. And speaking of bizarre TV shows, did you know The Gingerdead Man was almost directed by someone completely different?
Really? Who were they considering?
Well, it wasn't actually a director. They initially wanted to release The Gingerdead Man as an episode of the Blair Witch Project TV series.
Wow, that would have been a completely different take on the story. I can't even imagine how they would have pulled that off.
Yeah, but the deal fell through, and Full Moon Features decided to make it a standalone film instead, which is probably for the best.
Agreed. It's hard to imagine the Gingerdead Man fitting into the found footage style of the Blair Witch Project.
He needs his own spotlight.
Absolutely, and he definitely found it. But, it makes you wonder, what other strange paths could the Gingerdead Man have taken? What other bizarre worlds could he have been a part of?
The possibilities are endless, and maybe that's part of what makes this franchise so fascinating. It's a reminder that even the most outlandish ideas can find an audience, can spark creativity, and inspire a whole universe of stories.
And who knows, maybe somewhere out there in some alternate dimension, there's a found footage version of the Gingerdead Man just waiting to be discovered.
Now that's a thought. But before we delve into those alternate dimensions, let's get back to this one. We've got a lot more to cover, including those sequels that push the boundaries of good taste and gingerbread-themed horror even further.
Oh, can't wait. Bring on the killer cookies. All right, let's dive into those sequels. We've got Gingerdead Man 2, Passion of the Crust, Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, and of course the epic showdown, Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong.
Each one trying to outdo the last in terms of, well, absurdity.
Oh, absolutely. It's like they took the original concept and just ran wild with it.
So how does our killer cookie evolve throughout these sequels? Does he become, more evil, more sophisticated?
Not exactly. In Passion of the Crust, he's trapped in Hollywood trying to make it as a, movie star.
Wait, seriously, a killer gingerbread man wants to be an actor.
It's as ridiculous as it sounds, but there's this layer of, meta commentary on sequels themselves, how they often try to recapture the magic of the original.
I see. So it's not just mindless mayhem. There's a little bit of self-awareness in there.
Yeah, a little wink at the audience. And then in Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, he travels back in time to a roller disco competition in 1976.
Okay, now that's just wild. A time-traveling killer gingerbread man at a roller disco. It's like they threw everything but the kitchen sink into that one.
It's pure camp. And it works because the filmmakers are clearly having fun with it. They're not taking themselves too seriously.
Which makes it easier for the audience to just go along for the ride.
Exactly. It's like, we know this is ridiculous, so just buckle up and enjoy the craziness.
So what about the big crossover, Gingerdead Man versus Evil Bong? What happens when these two forces of nature collide?
Well, it's a battle for supremacy, of course.
Yeah.
But let's be real, the plot's not the main attraction here.
It's the spectacle of it all.
Exactly. Seeing these two iconic characters interact, wreak havoc, deliver some truly terrible puns.
It's pure fan service.
Oh, absolutely. It's like they took everything fans loved about the individual franchises and just crammed it all into one movie.
And somehow it works.
Well, it works in a, so bad it's good kind of way.
Right. But it's interesting how Full Moon Features has managed to build this whole shared universe around these rather unique characters.
They've really tapped into something with this particular brand of entertainment.
Now, I've got to ask, did critics warm up to the Gingerdead Man in the sequels, or were they still unimpressed?
Let's just say the reviews didn't get any kinder. Most critics found the sequels even more absurd, even more low budget than the original.
So they doubled down on the B-movie aesthetic.
Tripled down, maybe. But again, I think that was a deliberate choice. They knew what they were doing and they weren't afraid to embrace it.
It's that unapologetic approach that draws people in.
Exactly. They're not trying to be something they're not.
And there's something refreshing about that.
Now, speaking of refreshing, the Wikipedia article mentions that, at one point, they considered making a Gingerdead Man Christmas special.
Oh, really? Now that's a concept I can get behind. Imagine the Gingerdead Man terrorizing Santa's workshop.
Apparently, the idea was to have him facing off against a whole army of evil elves. But, sadly, it never got past the planning stages.
Ah, that's a shame. That could have been a real holiday classic.
Maybe someday. But in the meantime, we've got those 4 sequels, the crossover film, the comic book.
And the cereal. Don't forget the cereal.
Right, the cereal. It's a testament to the Gingerdead Man's enduring appeal. He's more than just a character. He's a pop culture phenomenon.
A testament to the power of a good, or maybe a so bad it's good, idea. But I'm curious, what do you think draws people to this particular brand of horror comedy? What is it about the Gingerdead Man that resonates with audiences?
I think it's the escapism. These movies offer a break from reality, a chance to laugh at the absurd, to embrace the ridiculous.
They're not trying to be deep or meaningful. They're just pure, unadulterated fun.
Exactly. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. A little bit of gingerbread-flavored chaos to brighten our day. So we've talked about the sequels, the crossover, the merchandise even, but I'm curious, is there anything else interesting about the production of the original film?
Well, the Wikipedia article mentions some things that almost were like different paths the film could have taken.
Ooh, like what?
Like, did you know they almost made The Gingerdead Man a much darker, more serious slasher flick?
Really? Huh. I kind of have a hard time picturing that, you know? A super serious killer gingerbread man.
Yeah, I think they realized pretty quickly that the premise just lent itself to a more comedic approach.
Makes sense. I mean, it's a killer gingerbread man, not exactly nightmare fuel.
Right. So they decided to embrace the absurdity of it all, which, honestly, I think was the right call.
Agreed. It's those kinds of unexpected choices that often lead to the most memorable films.
Now, speaking of memorable, the Wikipedia page doesn't dive into box office numbers, but it does mention that the film was profitable.
Well, enough to spawn 4 sequels, a crossover, and a whole merchandise line, so it must have done something right.
Right. It clearly resonated with a certain audience.
I think it speaks to the fact that sometimes those low-budget, kind of off-the-wall films can really capture people's imaginations.
It's like when you don't have a huge budget, you have to get more creative.
Exactly. And that can lead to some really unique and entertaining results.
It's a reminder that limitations can sometimes breed innovation. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something we've kind of danced around throughout our conversation, the idea of social commentary in The Gingerdead Man.
Right, so on the surface, it's a silly, gory horror comedy.
But is there something deeper going on?
Well, some people have interpreted the Gingerdead Man himself as a sort of commentary on consumerism. You know, this mass-produced holiday treat turned into a murderous monster.
Interesting. So it's like a cautionary tale about the dangers of overindulging?
Maybe. Or maybe it's a critique of how we as a society kind of idolize these manufactured symbols of happiness.
I see. So even though it's a B movie, there's still room for deeper analysis.
Absolutely. It's all about how you interpret it, what you bring to the film. And that's part of what makes art so fascinating, right?
Definitely. There's no one right answer. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of The Gingerdead Man, what key takeaway should our listeners leave with?
I'd say don't dismiss it just because it's a B movie or because the premise sounds ridiculous.
Give it a chance.
Exactly. You might be surprised at how much you enjoy it. And who knows, maybe you'll even find some deeper meaning in there.
Maybe you'll see a commentary on consumerism or the Hollywood sequel machine. Or maybe you'll just have a good laugh.
Exactly. The important thing is to keep an open mind and be willing to embrace the unexpected.
And with that, we conclude our deep dive into the wonderfully weird world of The Gingerdead Man. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of killer cookies, B-movie madness, and the enduring power of cult classics. Until next time, happy watching.